Hi everybody, my name's Lynn Hayes. Welcome back to my channel. This week we're going to be talking about the astrology for the week ahead, the week of March 22nd to the 29th. But there are a couple of other things that we want to discuss this week, one of which is the first full moon after the March equinox. This is an important time in many religions. In the Northern Hemisphere, the March equinox is sort of the rebirth. It's marked by the sun entering Aries, which is the first sign of the zodiac. It's the sign of initiation and of leadership. And so there's a sense of beginning a whole new cycle right now, with the sun having moved into Aries. And now there's 3 planets in Aries, including Chiron. Ceres, the asteroid, is also in Aries. And Ceres is the asteroid that describes the way we take care of ourselves. It describes our attitude to our incarnation, how we feel about being in a body, and how well we take care of that body. So it's very important, especially these days in the times of COVID, how are you taking care of yourself? And when Ceres is in Aries, which is a sign of self-initiation, there's a strong focus on taking care of our very selves. And that's a big focus here right now. We have all these planets moving into Aries. We were in Pisces, where it was very dreamy and very creative. And now we've moved into more of the sign of spring, the sign of initiation, where we are more focused on our own needs, accomplishing what it is that we want, satisfying our desires. So that's kind of a theme right now. And in the midst of that, we have the Libra full moon. In all full moons, of course, the moon is opposite the sun. We have the sun conjunct Venus. It's actually the midpoint of the Venus cycle, and Venus is moving at its maximum speed right now. We don't have to get into all of that right now, but just know that Venus is very important now. It's conjunct the sun. Her influence is clear and direct when we're in the superior conjunction phase. Venus is traveling direct, it's not retrograde. So all of the areas that we talk about with Venus, which has to do with our relating to others, our ability to connect, the power of attraction, which includes the things we value, it includes wealth and money and finance. All of these things are very important right now, and here we are at the Libra full moon. Libra is ruled by Venus, but the Libra moon is opposed by Venus and by the sun at this full moon. So that really suggests the need for some changes in our attitudes about how we relate to other people, how we feel about ourselves, and how well we balance these things. When the moon is full in Libra, we tend to have a deep internal need for balance and a sense of equality. Libra is always trying to bring things into balance. When things are out of balance, there's generally a reaction against that to try to bring things into greater balance. And here we have Venus, the sign of relating, in Aries, which is ruled by Mars, which is a sign of the individual. So that's a big theme right now of this full moon. How are we balancing our own needs with our needs in our relationships? How can we make our relationships more helpful? How can we be more helpful to the people that we love while still maintaining our own center? The full moon will occur on March 28th, but the energies for the full moon will start to begin a few days before the actual event. And that will become even stronger once the moon moves into Libra very early in the morning on Sunday at 1:23 a.m. But just watch for this. This is kind of the theme of this week. Remember, we don't have cycles that are involving any of the bigger planets, no outer planet cycles, no cycles of outer planets to the faster moving planets. So the lunar events take on more importance and more potency. This week it's really all about Venus, especially later in the week as the energies of the Libra full moon begin to build. But now let's talk about the week ahead. On Monday, we have a beautiful trine from Mars in Gemini to Saturn, which is in Aquarius. When Mars is in Gemini, the sign of the intellect, the sign of learning and communication, and Mars is the planet of drive and action, there's not a lot of focus. There's not a lot of grounding. It can be difficult to find really any focus. Mars tends to react, and Gemini goes in all directions at once and is perfectly happy to do that. But when Mars harmonizes in a trine to Saturn, the planet of grounding and the planet of structure, that really helps us to kind of settle down, find a focus. Mars aspects only last for a couple of days. This will have been building starting Sunday, but it might bleed in a little bit into Tuesday. But certainly on Monday, it's a very good day to get things done. The moon is in Cancer, where we do tend to be more emotional, and sometimes that can make it a little bit more difficult to kind of find our footing. So it's very important to honor those emotions. When the feelings come up, just be there in them. And that's going to help us not to get stuck in the feelings. It's going to help us to go ahead and use that Mars-Saturn to kind of activate and focus and really be productive that day. We do have some lunar aspects on Monday, and they tend to be pretty fast moving. They only last for a few hours. There's a square from the Cancer moon to Chiron, which can always be a little bit hypersensitive. It's very early in the morning, like between 3 and 4 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Please adjust for your own locality. And then after that, the Cancer moon makes some mild sextiles and trines to Uranus and to Mercury. But those are all over by 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time. The rest of the day is completely quiet. All we have is that nice trine from Mars to Saturn. So that's going to be a very nice day of kind of focused integration, if you will. On Tuesday, March 23rd, we start to feel the beginnings of a square from Mercury in Pisces to Mars in Gemini. This can be a bit of a disorienting aspect. Mercury aspects tend to only last really for a day. So this isn't going to start building until probably the afternoon of Tuesday, but you might start to feel it sooner, and I think it's good to prepare for it. When Mercury is in a square to Mars, there's a lot of competing interests and ideas. Mercury in Pisces and Mars in Gemini both are adaptable, but they lack a focus. There's a lot of great ideas right now because Mercury in Pisces is very imaginative. Mars in Gemini is very curious about everything. So there's lots of ideas, but there's no real focus. They don't take us in a particular direction. There might be arguments because Mars, can be kind of irritating and irritated, and Mercury, the planet of the mind, conflicting with Mars can bring about arguments and disagreements, but without really any clear answer. So Tuesday is a really good day to try on a lot of ideas. You might be flooded with, thoughts about what to do next, but it's not going to be the easiest day to really put something in place. Better to wait maybe till Wednesday or Thursday when the energies are more conducive to that sort of thing. And that's not going to be helped by the fact that around 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time, the Cancer moon is going to oppose Pluto. That really intensifies all of this stuff, and it can make it a little harder to put our own needs aside. We're dealing with the Cancer moon, which is so sensitive. Emotions are close to the surface. That's really good for this idea of knowing what you think and how you think about things, but not so great at being detached and having any kind of real perspective. But then at 5:56 p.m., the moon's going to go into Leo. Then it's going to begin to trine all of the Aries planets. It's going to trine the sun. It's going to trine Venus. And these are beautiful aspects between the moon and the sun, which is actually going to be just after midnight. The trine from the moon to Venus is just before midnight. The sun and Venus won't have quite made their alignment at that time. So the moon sort of kisses Venus and then the sun. And these are just lovely aspects that help us to shine our own light, which is really what the sun is all about. And then on Wednesday, March 24th, we have that square from Mercury to Mars, which is exact that day. We also have that Leo moon, which is a pretty powerful moon, and there's a strong desire under the Leo moon for joy and for happiness and to really celebrate life. In Leo, the moon takes on a fixed quality. Leo is a fixed sign, which is not very adaptable. And so that can cause a situation where we're somewhat stuck, where it's difficult to adapt to different things. At the same time, we have Mercury squaring Mars, and the Leo moon starts to conflict with Uranus, which is in Taurus, and that's about 9:46 a.m. Eastern Time. It opposes Saturn, which is in Aquarius, and these are all fixed signs. So when we have these fixed alignments, we can get kind of stuck. There tends to be kind of a buildup of pressure that then needs some sort of reaction in order to dissipate. But then in the afternoon that day, which is still Wednesday, the Leo moon forms a harmonious sextile to Mars. So that helps to bring the fire to fruition. It helps to encourage the fire. So instead of having all of these blocks that are oppressing and confining us, all of a sudden then the Leo moon can breathe freely. So after about 4:00 p.m. that day, the energies will start to really open up. All this week, the Sun and Venus will be within a degree or two of the exact conjunction. And the exact conjunction actually takes place Friday morning at 2:57 a.m. But on Thursday, March 25th, the energies really begin to build for that exact conjunction. The Sun conjunct Venus, I feel, is just a very lucky time. It's a time when we're in harmony with ourselves. It's a time when it's easier to find a harmonious alignment with other people, with our values, with our goals, and with our dreams and our desires. It's just generally very positive. And it's a very important part of the Libra full moon, which is also coming up. At about 9:27 a.m., the Leo moon is opposite Jupiter in Aquarius. And that's really nice because Thursday is Jupiter's day after all. And oppositions can create some stress, but whenever we're dealing with Jupiter, things are pretty open and optimistic. There can be just a general sense of goodwill, a lot of confidence and expansiveness. We are dealing with a polarity here between the Leo moon, which is all about, I need this for myself. And Jupiter is in Aquarius, which really wants abundance for everybody. When Jupiter is in Aquarius, which it is all this year, there's a very strong sense of social justice. This is a lunar aspect, so it's not going to last very long, and generally it's going to be pretty positive. But there may be a question that comes up around, oh wait, I wanted this for myself, and it turns out it's not really for the best good of everybody. And then at 11:25 p.m. that day, the moon is going to enter Virgo. The shift from the moon in Leo to Virgo can be a big one. Each of the planets next to each other don't have anything in common with each other. And Leo and Virgo almost, I think, have less in common than any other pair. Leo is really all about the ego, and Virgo is all about modesty and humility and not standing out in a crowd and not trying to be self-important. Virgo really doesn't like all that expression of ego. Virgo's main concern is really productivity, efficiency, and effectiveness. Under the influence of Virgo, we really want things to just work. And in order to accomplish that, Virgo is very good for anticipating problems. That's why Virgo has a reputation for being somewhat perfectionistic. It can see where the defects are. So when the moon is in Virgo, it's a really good time to organize yourself. It's a good time to create new plans and new strategies. That takes us to Friday, March 26th, when we have the exact Sun-Venus conjunction. There's a real push that day to bring out the best in ourselves, to really radiate love and compassion and affection on that day. The Virgo moon is pretty active at about 2:17 p.m. It forms a trine to Uranus, which is in Taurus. That can really help to facilitate not only productivity of Virgo, but also new ways of doing things. Virgo can get kind of stuck in the idea that this is how we've always done it, we're going to keep doing it that way. But when the Virgo moon harmonizes with Uranus, the planet of radical change, there can be some adaptation. There can be some new life that's sort of breathed into old ideas for a few hours. Then at about 10:17 p.m., the Virgo moon is going to make a square to Mars, which is in Gemini. The Virgo moon doesn't really like Mars much. Mars is impulsive and just wants action, and the Virgo moon really wants to think about every step. And that's especially true right now with Mars, which is in Gemini, where it's kind of hungry for new experiences and not really being very careful. This is only going to last for a few hours. Depending on your time zone, you might be asleep at that time, but that's not going to be the best time for any kind of focus. Mars is likely to disrupt the best of the Virgo plans for a few hours that day. Then following that theme, on Saturday, March 27th, the Virgo moon starts to bump up against the last of the Pisces planets. So we have Mercury in Pisces, which is opposed by the Virgo moon at 3:38 a.m. that day. But again, many of us will be asleep, and in that case, there could be some interesting dreams. Pisces is the sign of dreams and the dreamer. But when the Virgo moon is opposite Mercury in Pisces, there's some discomfort because Mercury in Pisces will not fit into Virgo's boxes. After a few hours, any stress will dissipate. And this could be a very good time for anything involving the imagination. If you're a writer or an artist, you might want to set your alarm, wake up at that time. You might find some very interesting creative ideas that come up at that time. And that's going to be even more true at around 11 a.m. when the Virgo moon is opposite Neptune, which is also in Pisces. And Neptune is the modern ruler of Pisces. So this is like a double whammy of Pisces and Virgo, not really mixing, coming together like oil and water. But if you're able to harness those two influences, the strategies and orderliness of Virgo with the boundless creativity of Neptune and Pisces, that could be a very productive time for anything that's creative or imaginative, or even if you're a business person, just getting some inspiration and some new ideas can be very useful. It's really my belief and experience that anything that's difficult in astrology can be turned into a benefit if we understand it and we know what's happening. So if we know that a certain day is going to be difficult for concentration, we can maybe plan not to do something that requires a lot of focus that day. We can plan our creative projects for that day and save our intellectual focus for days that are more conducive to that. And I hope that that's what you're getting out of these videos. That's my goal anyway. And then still on Saturday at 7:49 p.m., the Virgo moon is going to trine Pluto. Pluto is the last of the planets in Capricorn. It's going to be in Capricorn all this year. And this is the time for focus. This is the time to bring everything together, to be grounded, to set a plan, and to really put all of your instincts behind it. Pluto intensifies everything, but it also adds some punch. It adds some power and some empowerment for us. It's a lunar aspect. It's not going to last that long, but it can be very useful. And that takes us to Sunday, March 28th. The moon moves into Libra at 1:23 a.m. And that really intensifies this flowering of the Libra Venus energies. The moon is in Libra. It's opposite Venus. And so there's a very strong pull here towards harmony and peacefulness and beautiful surroundings and the harmony that beauty gives us. The Libra full moon is very good for relationships, of course. It's very good for love and romance, but it's also very good for our own self-esteem. Now, Venus isn't just about loving other people. It's also about how we feel about ourselves. And the sun is in Aries and Venus is in Aries, which is all about, our own needs and ideas and what we want. And that's having to balance with the Libra full moon. The full moon is an important time when we can release something, when we can let something go into the past. Libra doesn't like to hold resentments, but there is definitely a sense of scorekeeping. There's definitely a sense of equality, needing things to be equal. This person did this to me. I didn't do anything to deserve it, and they should pay. That sounds more like a Scorpio idea, and I would say the having to pay is probably more Scorpionic than Libra, but Libra definitely always kind of keeps this running total. So now with the moon full in Libra, it's a good time maybe to let go of some of those things. This isn't forgiveness. This whole idea of forgiveness is a whole other subject. Can we forgive until we are really reconciled? I don't think we can. I think the reconciliation and the internal healing really have to happen first. So under this Libra full moon, we can set an intention to let go of something, maybe some kind of resentment that we no longer need. It's been processed, and now we're ready to release it. There's a lovely harmonious trine from Saturn to the moon in this full moon chart, and that can really help us to find the integration and the structural ability to pull all of this together in a way that helps us to cement a stronger foundation. And that brings us to Monday, when we'll have a new video. I don't really have anything to report to prepare you for, so I hope you have a fantastic week. Please leave me some questions in the comments if you have any, and I'll see you next week. Thanks again.